Yes, yes, people, you know what time it is. You know what it is. It's G, and we are back in the building with some quick Liverpool news just in regards to Mohamed Salah. As we know, the Egyptian forward is currently injured and has obviously returned back to Liverpool. So just going to talk about that for a quick 5-10 minutes, give you my kind of thoughts and opinions on that, get into what Jurgen Klopp has said, and again just kind of talk a little bit about that, and of course Liverpool's games, during this period of time that he has actually been away at AFCON duty. So guys, please make sure you smash a like, please make sure you share, please make sure you do subscribe to the channel. Let's get into it.
Through the lot, now you know I'm coming through. When the growth look good on you, best believe they wanna screw now. I've been trying to climb, devil threw me in the dark. Baby, don't be insecure, you can still go make a mark like blow. Could never let them drain my soul now. Blow. Table turning like doorknobs, wow. Blow. I think I'm about to set sail. I'm a walking, living legend, walking with my chest out. Life keeps dealing me cards, I keep feeling it.
What's going on, people? What's going on? It's G, and we're obviously back in the building. This will be a quick one. I don't want to spend too long on this. Obviously, this is pertaining to Mohamed Salah. As we know, and as I mentioned in the intro, Mohamed Salah is, of course, injured and picked up an injury against Ghana in their AFCON game. I think it's his posterior muscle. I believe so. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. Not 100%. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. But anyway, regardless, he's injured. And we don't really know the extent of the injury. The Egypt FA have obviously come out. They've spoken on the situation. This is from Fabrizio Romano. The Egyptian FA announces that Salah will now travel to England to receive treatment, with the hope that he will join the Egyptian national team if it qualifies for the semi-final. That in itself is quite an interesting one. A lot of people, both Egyptian, fans, Liverpool fans, of course, have their say. Liverpool fans, of course, they're going to be somewhat biased in this kind of situation, whereby it's their star forward, or it's our star forward, should I say. So, of course, when we hear that he's been injured on international duty, and then we hear, of course, that he can come back to Liverpool, get that rehab that he needs, we look at that as a good thing. The way I looked at the situation was, it'd be very interesting to know or find out if, and, it's all going to depend on whether Egypt, of course, qualify for the next round. But if Egypt, say Egypt don't qualify for the next round, as an example, and Salah miraculously comes back for the game after their third group game match, that would be interesting. If, for example, Egypt make it through, I know it says there that he will return back to the Egyptian camp over there, and I think it's in the Ivory Coast. If they get to the semi-finals, so if they get to the quarters, last 16 or whatever, is he just going to stay here? Is there a possibility that he could potentially come back a bit earlier than expected? Again, I don't really know. I don't really know the ins and outs, in this kind of thing. I think, of course, for Liverpool's sake, at the end of the day, that's their player. That's the player that they pay their wages and pay his wages. And of course, they've got a duty of care. But so do Egypt, by the way. I don't want to make it seem like Egypt don't give a monkeys about him. At the end of the day, he's their star player, he's their best player, and he's their most important player. So, of course, they've got somewhat of a duty of care for him. But at the same time, Liverpool, especially with everything going on this season, Liverpool top of the league, going 5 points clear. The other day against Bournemouth. So, he's going to be important to Liverpool moving forward anyway. So having him injured doesn't exactly, would I say, help us, so to speak. Even though we've been doing well without him, it doesn't necessarily help us. So, yeah, like I said, for Liverpool, they've got that duty of care where they probably just feel he can get better rehab here. And I kind of agree with it. And it's like, would you have done this if it was any other player? That's the one thing I always think about. Would you, if this was just just like a fringe kind of player, like I don't know, like I don't know if Elliot got injured on international duty, during this period of time, would you be so bothered to bring him back, kind of thing, and do the rehab here? I don't know. I'm not trying to disrespect Elliot or be disingenuous to Harvey Elliott, but it's just I just think to myself, like, would we be doing all of this if it was any other player, or is it the sheer fact that it is Mohamed Salah is the reason why we decided, okay, you know what, it's probably best we bring him back? I mean, because in my mind I was thinking, well, why couldn't you have just brought your team doctors and stuff over there? But then again, I guess they might then say, in terms of facilities and things like that. So then I'm like, okay, fair enough. Obviously, this is Fabrizio just mentioning again. Mo Salah returns to Liverpool due to injury. The plan for Mo is to do his rehab with the club. If he's fit before the final, then probably he will go back to the AFCON. And that was from Jurgen Klopp. Of course, Klopp, as he mentions in that press conference, he's not a doctor. Even though he does like to give us his time scales and things like that, he's not a doctor. So, of course, he's not going to necessarily know as to, when Mo's going to really and truly be back. I know he made a little joke, and I've seen quite a few people jump on it, and they've been going crazy about it. I think before the tournament started, him joking, and he was joking. As much as, me and Klopp's relationship ain't the greatest. Yeah, I mean, I can't just say stuff just for the sake of it. It was tongue in cheek. It was just a joke that he mentioned about, Egypt getting knocked out of the tournament early and, Mo coming home. The reality is, I mean, I'll be real, from a Liverpool standpoint, of course you want of course you want Egypt to not make it through to the final. Same with Endo, with Japan. I don't want them to get to the final. That means he's going to be out for longer. Why would you want that as a fan of the club first? I don't support Egypt or Japan. Do you know what I mean? So what they do in the tournament is super irrelevant. Of course, it'll be disappointing for them and all these kind of, various different things. But from a club point of view, I don't care. Do you know what I mean? Come home early, lose all 3 matches. Perfect. Fantastic. Come back to Liverpool. Do you know what I mean? So we can, utilize, what you guys can add and bring to the team, as opposed to not having you guys here. But ultimately, I mean, it doesn't necessarily matter, as we know, during this January period. Look, no Salah, no problem. 2-0 against Arsenal, we're at the Emirates, 2-1 against Fulham, 4-0 against Bournemouth. Liverpool, not necessarily, would I say, missing, missing Salah or Endo. To be honest with you, we picked up these victories. I think it's been about 11 games or something like that since Mo Salah's been at the football club that he's had during the AFCON kind of period, and we've not lost any of those games. So again, this January period, it's always funny. Every time we come up to this January period, every single time, it's always conversations. Obviously, when the AFCON is on, it's always a conversation about whether or not, we'll miss Mo Salah. Is it, how are Liverpool going to be? And of course, look, ultimately, Liverpool are able to usually get through it. Well, we're able to get through this period. Last time I think we had what's the guy's name? Fabinho was scoring goals. He was scoring penalties. Oxlade-Chamberlain was able to then step in. I guess other players will just they have to anyway. That's the only way forward. They'd have to inevitably step in and hope, and we just have to then obviously, of course, hope for the best. But this season, in a general sense, I think one of the things that people have always been questioning is whether or not Liverpool look more fluid without Mo Salah. Are we let me not say a better team, because to say you're a better team without one of your best players is probably not the right way of saying it. But I think you guys get where I'm coming from, is that, are we more fluid? Maybe that's a better word. Are we more fluid without a Mo Salah? Now, granted, Diogo Jota, Cody Gakpo, Luis Diaz, Darwin Núñez, of course, they're not world-class players. That's absolutely fine. Nobody's expecting them to be world-class players. They just need to be players that are good enough to be able to help Liverpool, in these kind of situations. And I think each of them possesses different types of qualities. They bring different kind of things on the football pitch. So it's just really about Jurgen Klopp being able to utilize that, especially within this kind of period. Now, again, granted, we've been kind of not lucky, but lucky is the wrong word. It's been helpful that we've had obviously the little break as well in between. So then the gap's a little bit bigger. The reality is, even if Mo isn't going to be available, so to speak, I think he would probably only really miss, I mean, I'm trying to think, maybe the Chelsea. I don't even feel like he'd missed the Arsenal game in the Premier League that we've got away at the Emirates. I mean, unless the injury's obviously worse and he's not able to recover in time, I don't even feel like he'd even miss that kind of game. So again, this is where I look at it and I think to myself, from a Liverpool standpoint, I don't feel like it's a bad thing. I can totally, and don't get it twisted, as much as I don't care about Egypt and they drew against my home country, so I'm a little bit like, oh, God. But ultimately, when you do look at it, I can get why the Egyptian fans might be a little bit annoyed, and I can get why there might be a little bit of animosity, so to speak. And to be honest, again, looking at it from their perspective, they have every right to. They have every single right to, because they're probably looking at it and thinking to themselves, oh, he doesn't care about his country and blah, blah, blah. And again, this isn't everybody. And I know quite a few people understand the situation. They understand how much Mo loves his country. They understand how important Egypt is to Mo, and all these kind of various different things. So I know some people look at it and think, no, it's calm, don't worry about it. We get it. At the end of the day, you've got one of the, the biggest stars in world football. So of course, if he does get injured, but then ultimately you then got the flip side of things, where you're seeing Mo Salah and you're thinking to yourself, does he really care? But I feel like he does. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I don't know him personally, so I'm not going to sit here and try and lie and say, oh yeah, definitely know that he's this, that, and the other. I can only go based on everything I've ever seen and or heard in regards to Mo. But he doesn't give me the vibe of someone who's not caring and doesn't want to be there. I just think it's more. Let's put it this way: I feel if it was his choice, he would stay with the Egyptian camp. I think that choice has probably been potentially taken out of his hands, and the Liverpool team, they've kind of said, listen, we prefer if you came back. We prefer if you got the rehab and everything done back here where we can monitor it. We can, check everything over. If there's, need to dot the I's, cross the T's kind of thing. And things like that, as opposed to being over there in Egypt, where we'd have to probably send someone over. We might not have the facilities to be able to facilitate, all of these kind of various different things. And obviously, you got to realize that you're talking about a player who earns, plus north of 300 grand a week. At the end of the day, my brother, I don't need you getting injured, and especially on international duty. So if there's anything that we can do to help with that rehab, then of course, we're going to do that. So yeah, I can see both sides. I can see both sides. And of course, this is just, since Mo Salah's arrival in Merseyside 2017, he's only missed 11 total Premier League matches. Liverpool have won 8 of those matches and have drawn 3, never losing in 7 years. So again, like I said, even the fact that Mo isn't here anyway because he's been away on AFCON duty, Liverpool have been able to navigate through these games regardless. Hasn't always been pretty. But then again, that's kind of a theme of the season for Liverpool. But it doesn't matter because they're showing that they can win games without Mo Salah. And I think that is equally as important as anything else, being able to show that, okay, because that's one of the questions that everybody asks, we're all saying the same thing. Oh, if there's no Mo, what do we do? How do we replace the goals? All these kind of questions. And they're questions that make sense. They're questions that we should be asking because ultimately you're talking about one of the best players ever to play in the Premier League. So trying to replace that. But I've always mentioned, unless you're going out to sign like Kylian Mbappe or something like that, or someone of that kind of ilk, I don't even feel like it's there about necessarily replacing his goals, so to speak. I think it's then about changing the way you do things. Maybe the focus of play isn't necessarily going to, of course, be through Mohamed Salah. It's they're going to be as more of a collective. Of course, we saw the game last night against Bournemouth. Was a little bit, first half wasn't really that great, but they obviously, of course, when they clicked into gear in that second half, in that second period, that's where you kind of felt like, okay, cool. Maybe this is something. Maybe this could be a new dawn. Now, again, like I said, it's not just that game last night because we've had, the other 2 games, within that time, or other few games, should I say, within that time, since Mo and Endo have actually been away. So we're showing we're capable. Ultimately, listen, I still think Mo Salah is the best attacker that Liverpool have got, regardless. You guys already know my feelings on him. Favorite player at the football club. And it's still going to be a miss. But again, I am quite, I'm not say astonished because then that means I really didn't rate these guys. I'm impressed. At looking at these guys, the Diogo, especially Diogo Jota, In fact, no, Jota hasn't even necessarily impressed me because I always knew this guy had it in him. It's just more maybe more looking at the other three, you know, the Diaz's, the Nunez's. In patches, they've been okay. They haven't played good every single game, and they've been a little bit off in certain various parts. But as a collective, especially when you've got Diogo Jota there, we're showing that maybe there is life after Salah. Maybe Klopp will just have to play it in a different kind of way, different kind of football, and then reinvent that attack in a whole new kind of light, and then we'll be able to potentially move forward. But listen, man, we're going to miss Mo Salah anyway. Let's hope the injury isn't long. I mean, it's saying, whenever Egypt, if they potentially get to the semi-final. So, like I said, I'm just intrigued and interested to know if Egypt didn't make it or don't make it past the next round, is it going to be a case of, let's say Egypt get knocked out, as I mentioned before, Egypt get knocked out in the group stages, is Mo Salah just going to miraculously be fit and then all of a sudden play Liverpool's next game? Because that's where you create that animosity. That's where you create the beef. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And then that's where it then becomes a real club versus country. I don't think we've had that beef with Egypt, so to speak. There might have been a couple tiffs I'm not really remembering from back in like maybe a couple of years back, but in as a whole, I don't feel like we've had too much problems with them. So it'll be interesting to see if Egypt don't qualify. I think it'll be more interesting to see if Egypt don't qualify than if they do, because if they do, then the fact will always still remain that as long as we make it to the semi-final, then Mo Salah can come back and etc. etc. But if they don't, and then he plays the next game, yeah, that's just going to create problems. And Liverpool don't want to have that kind of beef with Egypt at this current moment in time. I just think that they want to stay as good on good terms as long as possible. But hey, listen, man, that's not my beef. That's going to be Salah's beef and Liverpool's beef to potentially sort out. But let's just wait and see. Let's just wait and see. But yeah, just wanted to take a quick look at it. Coming back from Egyptian duty, will Mo Salah be able to play any more part in AFCON? Obviously, that's not going to be down to him anymore. It's going to be down to Egypt. And hopefully, for Egypt's sake, anyway, they do qualify. I hope for my sake and Ghana's sake, they do not qualify and we knock them out somehow. But of course, we're going to have to wait and see. Let me know, of course, what you guys think. Let me do a little quick one talking about, my guy, Mo Salah. Guys, please make sure you smash a like. Please make sure you share. And please make sure you do subscribe to the damn channel. I'm G. I'll probably catch you guys later, but I'm out.